It is time for Boxing Scene's top stories only on ProBox TV, your boxing channel. I am George DeMatteis. Download the ProBox TV app where apps are available for the full ProBox TV experience, which includes our great world champions. We have Chris Algieri and Paulie Malignaggi joining us here on Top Stories. Well, a BoxingScene.com story quotes unbeaten super welterweight XANDER ZAYAS as saying he expects a quality test from Damian Sosa in his Friday night fight at MSG Theater. Quote, I feel like he's going to come in and be a Mexican warrior. I'm expecting the best Damian Sosa ever. He has prepared for this fight like he never has before in his life. All right, Paulie, is this fight the real step up for ZAYAS that he needs, or another soft step forward for a fighter Top Rank is trying to guide gently through the rankings?
I don't know that Top Rank guides anybody so gently. You know, they know how to maneuver guys in the right direction. I think they've shown themselves to be the best at, you know, sort of getting guys to the title and getting guys to a promotable point in their career. And you know, if they can't do that with a certain fighter, I've seen them release unbeaten guys. You know, Edgar Berlanga is one of those guys. So they're not a very patient approach promoter, because they both look at whether you can fight, whether you can entertain, and also how much promotability you have. If you're missing any of those things, you know, another promoter might find you, you know, very, very valuable, but they don't, you know, and they'll release you. And I've noticed that with Top Rank, they do that more than anybody else. I think I see Top Rank release more undefeated guys than any other promoter. You know, they'll be willing to throw out their investment and just start over with somebody else, you know. And it's both good and bad. So I think ZAYAS has been showing to be the goods in the way he's been brought up. Fought ex-world champion Teixeira in his last fight. Maybe Teixeira wasn't as hungry as he was before. Didn't really bite down the same way. And in this particular situation, Sosa maybe doesn't have the ex-world title, but he is hungrier. You know, he's coming off of a ProBox TV win over Marcus Valle. So it's yet another guy who's used ProBox TV as a springboard to catapult themselves into bigger opportunities and bigger fights and see what they can do there. So again, the ProBox TV platform showing itself to be beneficial to both fighters and to boxers and boxing. Now, how much of a danger is he to ZAYAS? Well, listen, he's just beaten an undefeated fighter. He's beaten an undefeated prospect that we here at ProBox thought pretty highly of. In Marcus Valle, Sosa took him out in essentially Valle's hometown area in the Tampa area. So he's a fearless guy. He's maybe not the most naturally athletically talented guy, but he brings the fight. He comes to fight, and he's got some ability there. You know, how much of a test is he going to be for ZAYAS? I think he's going to be stubborn, and he's going to be a little bit of a test, you know. And the way ZAYAS wins this fight, because you still have to be surprised if ZAYAS loses this fight based on the way ZAYAS has been looking in his career and what's expected of him. But the way ZAYAS wins this fight is important because, again, Top Rank is not a very patient approach promoter. If you're still winning, but you're not looking so great, they'll still lose their patience with you. So ZAYAS is in with a promoter who's a great promoter as far as creating champions and creating stars, but the onus is on him, even against guys like this, even against spoilers like this, even against guys like Damian Sosa who are rough and tumble and can beat you if you're not at your best. He's expected to beat him and look good. And so I don't think this is a gimme.
Yeah, champ. I actually think this is a pretty stern test. You know, we called Damian Sosa in his last fight. We spoke when he beat Marcus Valle. I thought he was very impressive that night. He did some really tricky, tactical, ring-savvy things in that night that really impressed me. He had someone in front of him in Valle who's a very physical guy, similar to how XANDER is. XANDER's very physical. He's very athletic. He's big for the weight class. He's tall. He's long. XANDER is far more technically sound than Marcus Valle. A bit more dynamic in his punch selection and his athleticism, but still a physical guy. And Sosa is big for the weight class. I told you he was very savvy in the things that he was doing in the ring. I was very impressed. And oftentimes when we have guys who surprise me on ProBox TV air, I'll go and I'll speak to their coaches and be like, hey man, your guy can fight. I was impressed. And they told me that night, they're like, we're looking to get XANDER next. And this was months ago. And now that the fight has actually come to fruition, it just tells me these guys have had XANDER in their eyesight for crosshairs for a while. So he was in great shape that night. He knew he needed to be because he's going to the backyard of Valle, fighting an undefeated guy, a very physical guy, a big guy for the weight class. So a similar situation. Now they've got this hindsight. In hindsight, they've got this vision of where they're going. They've been targeting XANDER ZAYAS. So they're going to be prepared. I think Xander was very smart in what he said, that this guy's going to come in the best shape of his life. I think that's actually very true. And I've been speaking to Top Rank, the Top Rank brass behind the scenes, and they see what I see. They know that Damian is a very, very tough fighter, a very savvy guy. So, but Champ, you're absolutely right. It depends how you beat a Damian Sosa. And most people are going to expect Xander Zayas. He's going to be the favorite in that fight. But there might be a little bit of leeway with Xander, because Xander has a very special aspect to him as a fighter. He's Puerto Rican. He can fight in New York. Top Rank loves to have Puerto Rican stars because they can do the Puerto Rican Day Parade fights. They thought it was going to be Ed Berlanga. It didn't work out. Xander fought in the undercards of those. It seems like Xander's moving into that position to now take over that slot. Miguel Cotto was the Puerto Rican Day guy, Puerto Rican Day Parade fighter, fight weekend. Tito Trinidad did that too. The Puerto Rican fans really come out at MSG. So there is that. So it seems like, I wouldn't say that he's been kid-gloved his way up, because Top Rank, like you said, Champ, doesn't do that to anyone. But there's a little more incentive in having Xander Zayas progress the way that he's progressing. And he's also 22 years old. So they may be careful with him moving forward because he is so young and because the potential of what kind of superstar they may have in their hands. But listen, I think in any other weight class, you're looking at Xander and you're going, hey, world title fight. But 154 is deep. So I think at this stage of his career, pumping the brakes a little bit is probably what they're thinking, so they can develop him into what they want him to be, which is an absolute superstar for New York. But we'll see. I know Xander's chomping at the bit. He wants to get out of the gate now.
Yeah, Xander Zayas, 19-0, 12 wins by knockout. All right, Paulie, what are we expecting from Zayas? He is the A-side in this fight there, so what are we expecting from him in the ring on Friday night?
I'll tell you again, it's a tough fight. If Zayas can impress to the point where he wins this fight one-sidedly or dominates or even stops him, I mean, dude, he is really automatically, his name gets mentioned in with the top 154-pounders. I think at this point now, you got to say, okay, even this level of step up he's dominating it. Now he's ready for world-class level. The key to being a prospect that people will talk about and people will be impressed with is to dominate every level that you've been stepped up to until there's basically the going opinion is, okay, well, he's too dominant. He's got to get to world-class level. Even if at world-class level, sometimes you may be the underdog against some guys, you're just dominating at all the levels below that. I remember it happened in my career. I dominated on a Friday Night Fights main event against a guy that was a 50-50 fight. They were like, all right, you know what? We're going to keep wasting our time giving this kid this kind of level. We got to just put him at world-class level. Granted, it was too high of a step up with Cotto, but eventually it worked out. What I'm saying with Zayas is the same thing. He's been looking great. He keeps looking dominant. If this level is also, he's dominated the ex-world champions. If this level of a guy like this, who's a spoiler, has knocked off undefeated guys, and is known to make you look bad in the very least. If Zayas can go in there and dominate, then you're going to start talking about him with the elite 154-pounders. And, dude, the elite 154-pounders, this is one of the toughest weight classes in boxing. So if you add yet another dynamic to it, which is a star Puerto Rican fighter who belongs at this level, because he'll show he belongs at this level if he stops this guy impressively, then you're going to make this weight class even more fun. Of course, you're always going to have the problems about are the guys actually going to wind up fighting each other, but you're going to add yet another name into possibly what's becoming the most dynamic weight class in boxing. Now, if he struggles a little bit, hey, man, you know what? He's still young. It's par for the course. As long as he gets to win, Champ, you made a good point. They may be a little bit more patient with Zayas. They were not patient with Berlanga. Eventually, they ran out of patience and just released an undefeated guy who now walked into the Matchroom's house and picked up a Canelo payday that Top Rank was not able to cash in on. So I don't know that you make a great point. I don't know that they want to release yet another Puerto Rican fighter who they built up to this point. And with the intention to build him to the next Puerto Rican Day Parade type of fighter, even if he's not moving at the rate that they want him to move at. But, of course, they'd love to see him be able to do well here and dominate at this level, because then it would really be a catapult type of win. But, dude, Sosa is not an easy task. This one that's making me really curious. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's Puerto Rico versus Mexico. We know about that rivalry. We've spoken about that rivalry here on ProBox TV. By the way, this fight is going to be on ESPN Plus on Friday night. It's the undercard to the Sandy Ryan-Michaela Mayer fight. But Xander Zayas and Damian Sosa just might steal the show at MSG Theater. And, of course, we'll have reactions to that fight here on Top Stories. We'd like to remind you to scan the QR code, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Download the ProBox TV app where apps are available so you can catch the best live fight series in all of boxing. Wednesday Night Fights, another edition, October 9th here on your boxing channel. I'm George DeMatteis, and that does it for Boxing Scene's Top Stories.
Wednesday Night Fights.
Dynamite action on Wednesday Night Fights every other Wednesday on your boxing channel.
Coming up on your next Wednesday Night Fights, October 9th. Chris, Primetime Colbert, and Omar Super Salcido step into the ring for what is sure to be a barn burner. Live from the ProBox Event Center in Plant City. Get your tickets at ProBoxTV.com or take your chances at the door. Wednesday Night Fights.
For more ProBox TV, scan the QR code on the screen or go to the App Store and Google Play. ProBox TV, your boxing channel.